Alright, people. Review of the week time. So, lot to talk about. A lot of stories actually came out today, but we always have to talk about the fights. So, there's three main cards over the course of the weekend. I haven't got around to watching all the fights yet, but we'll talk about. I have seen the highlights of some of it, but we'll get around to talking about everything here. Now, we will start with the card over in Puerto Rico because there's a talking point that I want to just bring up about this card. I'll get to it in a wee sec. I've only seen, and I've done a review of it, Jake Paul versus Ryan Borland. Absolutely. Yeah, this fight, both guys came in just under 200 pounds. Borland looked just, yeah, that's how he looked. He looked horrific in there. Don't know who the 17 wins were against because this guy looked terrible. He didn't throw a punch really. Jake Paul had an easy time, and at the end of the day, right, I'm critiquing him, but I'm critiquing Borland more because he just didn't turn up. He just turned up to go home. But at the end of the day, a record like 8-1 going into the fight, what did you really expect? Do we really expect he's going to be fighting the cream of the crop? Not really. He's doing, look, I don't want to be hypercritical of him. He's in boxing. He doesn't need boxing, but he's in it. He's able to give it his full attention, and he is fighting professionals. God damn, this guy was just, yeah. This guy did not. I'd love to know who the wins were against because they were bad. He was bad. Now, on that card was meant to be Amanda Serrano versus this girl here called Nia Mickey. I think is how you say that girl's name. It was cancelled last minute due to an eye injury Amanda Serrano sustained. Now, I've heard some people, Sky Nicholson, say that Serrano, she was tweeting this saying that Serrano knew, I think even as far back as Friday or something like that, that this would happen, and it ended up happening. Some people are speculating that Amanda Serrano was used by Jake Paul, as in get her on the card, have it sold as her show, because it was obviously in her native Puerto Rico, just to, get numbers up, because Jake Paul hasn't been doing the best numbers lately. I really don't know. It is strange. Like, there have been fights that have been cancelled for strange reasons. I remember Carl Frampton a few years ago. I think it was 2017. I think it was thereabouts. He was meant to have a fight in Belfast. I think it was in Belfast. Well, it more than likely would have been. I think it was in Belfast. He was still with McGuigan at the time, and he missed weight. I think he came in a pound or so overweight. I forget who he was meant to fight. I cannot remember who he was meant to fight. He never ended up fighting him in the end, I don't think. Well, he didn't, but he didn't even get a fight down the line. And didn't he say he slipped in the shower or something like that? And I'm pretty sure I heard of another story. Might have been on a UK card or a US card. I think it was in around about 2016, 2017, where a clock fell on a guy on his hand or something after the weigh. And so you have heard some stories about people pulling out a fight on fight day. Freak things happen. This one, though, is like, they weighed in. Like, it just, I don't know. But Amanda Serrano was meant to headline that show. Obviously, she didn't. So yeah, we have to wait and see what's there. I think Sky Nicholson was or is her mandatory. So obviously, Sky Nicholson has a bit of a, I don't want to say beef there, but she's obviously, she. One thing I will say, right, I've not watched Sky Nicholson, but I do like the fact that, because you see this sometimes when you, male or female, you do see it, and when you're talking about up and comers, and they're in a division with a long reigning champion, a champion who's held in high esteem like Amanda Serrano is, a lot of other contenders, even if they're in her respective weight, will kind of look at Amanda Serrano, or a lot of fighters do it with Floyd back in the day, like Devin Alexander used to do it, where it's like they're in their respective weight divisions, but they look at the champion, they look at like the Serranos and the Floyds of the world as, oh, I'm looking up to you, I want to be just like you, this, that, and the other. It's like, don't do that. That's all well and good to say that when they've retired or moved on. Please don't say it when you're a contender, because you're straight away showing that, you don't need to be brutally antagonistic necessarily, but you don't need to be showing, the fighter that, like, oh, I'm in awe of you, you're amazing. I don't like that. I really don't like it when I see that. Now, some would argue that it can kind of lull the opponent into a false sense of security, a bit like what Andy Ruiz did first time around with Joshua. I don't know. Yeah, but I think it's when I don't want to say they're sycophants necessarily, but when they're showing way too much admiration, and you're looking at them thinking that's your target. You want to be fighting that person. You don't want to be cheering them on every 2 seconds. It's like, what's going to happen when you get to fight night? So that's one thing I will say about Nicholson I quite like, is the fact that she doesn't seem to be in awe of Amanda Serrano or anything like that. She just seems to be like, I want to fight you, and F you. I respect you, but I'm not going to show you. I'm not going to be basically a cheerleader for you. Right, I'm going to look at you, I'm going to say I can beat you. A bit like what Tyson Fury did with Vladimir Klitschko. When he went into camp originally with Klitschko, I think it was 2012, 2013, thereabouts. Manny Stewart might have been still alive. He was just like, just another guy. Just another guy. And Klitschko was the sort of guy where if he had fighters come into camp and they were real, hello, Mr. Klitschko, how are you? He loved that. With Fury, it was that's just another man. And I think that's one of the reasons why he was able to beat him as well, that he showed Klitschko no respect throughout, even going back years prior, and was just like, you're just another guy. I don't see an aura of invincibility of you. I don't see you as this, mythical champion that I have to, look up to and try and dethrone. I just see you as just another guy. And, say what you want to say about Fury, but that mindset, that's taken in places. Say what you want to say about him, but that mindset is one of his strengths, or it might have been.Maybe he doesn't have it now, I don't know. But back then, it was something else. In terms of the UK, Telford in Shropshire, not a place that I would associate too much with boxing, but it seems to be a bit of a hotbed now for boxing. I know Warren's putting on some shows there. I'm not sure if Ben Shalon's put some shows on there. It's in Shropshire, which I think is on the border with Wales. I'm pretty sure that's where Shropshire is. It's kind of like Midlands to the west. It kind of borders Wales. But this was in Telford. Again, I haven't seen many of the fights on. The only real fight I was keen on was Abbas Barou versus Sam Eggington. This was for the vacant EBU, the full European title, the legit European title. It's not like a WBO European. No, this is the legit EBU European title at 154 pounds. Sam Eggington lost a majority decision. I felt he was generous to even get the majority decision, to be honest with you. I felt as though Abbas Barou won this fight pretty clearly. That name is just, me and names. I felt he won it pretty clear. I think he had Eggington in trouble a couple of times. Eggington had his moments in there, but if you think of it like this, the rounds Eggington lost, you couldn't even make a case for him winning them. And the rounds that you could give to him, you'd look and you'd say, all right. So, I seen a few people say, were the scorecards that did have Eggington losing a bit wide. I don't really have any issue with the 170 and 111 scorecard, quite frankly. I think that Eggington is a solid domestic level fighter. He has picked up European gold in the past, down at 147 pounds. But I think that's really kind of where he's at. He's a fringe European, solid domestic level fighter. He's had well over 40. It's actually crazy. He's had well over 40 fights. He's lost 9 of them. So, high level. I don't want to sound disrespectful with this, but is it fair to say he's high level journeyman at this stage? He can cause anyone like Joe Pigford at domestic level trouble, but he's not going to be beating the top guys. Let's put it like that. He's not going to be going in there and picking up European titles or something like that. But guys like Joe Pigford, he can have competitive fights with Ted Cheeseman, people like that, Dennis Hogan. But that's really kind of his level. But nevertheless, say what you want to say about Sam Eggington. The guy comes to fight. As I said, he's never been in a boring fight. God knows what Ben Shalom is saying. Not entertaining enough for Sky. You can't have Sam Eggington in a fight and it not be boring. He is always going to be entertaining. Again, it's quite crazy, really, to see his record. And it seems like he's been around forever and he's only 30 years old. It's really quite crazy, really. Sam Eggington, I've been watching him for years and years and years, back in his Matchroom days. And it's like, damn, this guy's been around. I think he even fought in Prize Fighter back in the day. Yeah, he did. He lost to Dale Evans in Prize Fighter back in the day. He's lost actually twice in Prize Fighter. He fought in it in 2014, Johnny Coyle. So, yeah, Eggington he's been around, man. Paulie Malignaggi, I remember that win. That was on the undercard of Hey Bellew won. And then that Frankie Gavin. That was a really good fight, was Frankie Gavin. I think that, was in Birmingham. That headlined the Sky Show. That was a really good fight. I think was that that was the fight Agogo lost to Craig Cunningham. I remember that fight. I remember that fight real well. He made Craig Cunningham, who was done very little since then. He made Craig Cunningham look like Adonis Stevenson in there with the left hand. That was crazy. Absolutely crazy. But big up to Sam Eggington. I know he lost, but I'm sure he'll come back definitely. And he's always going to be a guy who turns up to fight. And, you know, if you aren't up to scratch, he's going to beat you. He will. So big up to Sam Eggington, even in defeat. We go then to Top Rank. Luis Alberto Lopez successfully defended his 126-pound world title. Another good win for him. Another win in the column. And yeah, he is, I suspect, he is going to be looking to fight the winner, potentially, of Ray Ford. Well, Ray Ford did win. I say that Ray Ford did win. I only seen the highlights. I seen the knockout. Here's what I want to talk about the Raymond Ford fight. I seen the knockout. I seen the last round. Apparently Ray Ford was down on two of the three judges' scorecards, right? Now his opponent, whose name is basically a lot of people are complaining about the stoppage, right? And they're saying that the opponent should have been given more time. There was a knockdown in that 12th round, but it wasn't ruled a knockdown. The guy was out on his feet. But he should have been allowed to continue. The referee maybe should have administered a count, but fundamentally should have been allowed to continue. I disagree completely with that. He made a fundamental error in there. You do not, especially when you're hurt, turn your back. Because you are giving the referee a just cause to stop the fight. And that's exactly what he did. I don't blame the referee for stopping that fight. Don't do that. That's such a novice rookie move. You do not turn your back, especially if you're hurt, on the referee. You're giving him just cause to stop the fight. I've no issue with him stopping it. Quite frankly, if a fighter does that, I've no issue. So people say, I should have been given more time. No, I think the referee was on point with that. He looked very badly hurt. And I'm surprised the referee, who was referee in this fight actually? It was Charlie Fitch. I don't recall seeing much of him. I can't pinpoint fights that I've seen him referee now, to be honest with you. But 100%, I think he was in the right to stop that fight. He should have called the knockdown. And who knows, maybe if he had called the knockdown, this could have been a bit different, because two of the judges had, how many points did they have him up by? Yeah, so we could have been looking at a majority draw. We could have been, no, actually, he still probably would have won, because it would have been a 10-8 round. So yeah, so he could have still lost that fight, even if the knockdown had been called and he'd survived. He actually could have won this fight, and Raymond Ford could have taken an L. So that's an interesting one, actually. But yeah, I only seen the highlights of that, so all I can do is comment on the stoppage. I've no issue with it. No issue with it. He turned it back. Just you're asking for trouble doing that. Don't do that. So there is that. Now, I feel like we need to talk about Joshua Ngannou. It's obviously fight week, and we will talk about that. But I obviously feel the need as well to talk about the breaking news. I'm just going to actually get the Joshua Ngannou card up, because we'll talk about the card. But I'm going to read this here. So, Dillian Whyte. Last week, he teased the comeback on Instagram, saying that he was back. He was on the comeback. Okay, we've seen the video. Now, I'm going to read this here. This is reported from Sky Sports. It says, Dillian Whyte has now been cleared by the Texas Commission, who he holds his boxing license with. Of course, because, he's fought in Texas so much over the last few years, over the positive drug test that caused the Anthony Joshua rematch to be cancelled last year. The forensic expert who conducted the investigation concluded Whyte was the victim of a contaminated supplement that did not disclose the contamination amongst its ingredients, and he did not ingest it intentionally. Does anyone know exactly what it is? Because still now, I've not seen anyone tell me what exactly it is. To read a quote here from Dillian Whyte, I'm angry and disappointed because people in this game don't give you a chance to prove yourself. You failed tests in the past. So just to interject, a tree is known by its fruits. I've said that once and I'll say it again. If it's like the Tyson Fury situation, if this has happened before and you've served a ban before, If this has happened before and it happens again, people are going to have a look and say, have my doubts. Have my doubts. He says also, it was depressing and I was heartbroken. When you know you're innocent and it's not some BS story, I've lost a lot of money and we're seeking damages from the company who manufactured the supplement for all the money I've lost. Right. Do you know what, right? This is Dillian Whyte in the sport of boxing's third time going through all this. And me and Ade, and shout out to Ade, thank you very much for coming on. Hopefully next time we can do it in person. When we talked about this, he touched on a very good point, and I had to laugh because I just actually played the scenario out in my head and it just made me giggle a bit. Where he said, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but basically he said, imagine you take someone who's in athletics and they're in charge of the doping for athletics, and you see some of the bans that are going out. You know, people, you know, smoking marijuana and getting a 4-year ban, stuff like that. If you said to whoever's looking after the drug testing and all that for that, and you said, come into boxing and see how it's run, you'd probably go in with a perception, if you didn't already know, that a sport like boxing, which is very dangerous, you know, it's not like athletics where it's just, you know, one person running, it, or, you know, something like that, sprinting and, you know, 100 meters and stuff like that. It's not like that where, you know, you just go from point A to point B. This is a sport where you're getting hit. You're getting hit repeatedly over 10, 12 rounds. You would think, theoretically, that it would have very stringent drug testing, and if anyone fails, it's going to be a serious and you come in and you'd be like, what the hell is going on here? You would literally be like that, going, and your head would be, you know, what the hell is what it's like. You know, as I said, Dillian Whyte in his career, he has served a ban in the past for Jack 3D. There was obviously the issue with UCAD in the Oscar Rivas fight, and now this, at the end of the day, as I said, a tree is known by its fruits. He's talking about getting his boxing career back up and running. And I mentioned it to Ade. I said, look, if you were Anthony Joshua, you beat Francis Ngannou, you have to wait for Fury Usyk, you might have to take an interim fight. Would you do Dillian Whyte versus Anthony Joshua too? And he said no. And he said, if you think of Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua, they're like, we've done this. We've put money into this fight. And you let us down on fight week. And that's something that you need to think about, because it's not even just with Dillian Whyte. And I'm sure it's the same with Jarrell Miller, another repeat offender, where it's not even just the fact that you're dealing with a fighter who has multiple failed tests on his record, multiple. But you're dealing with a fighter who, he could let a whole card down on fight week as well. So you think of it like this. You're not just thinking, is he clean? Is he clean? Is he clean? You go through that camp thinking, oh, I wonder, am I even going to get the fight on fight night? Because what if he pops the week of the fight and stuff like that? So yeah, with Dillian Whyte, with these seemingly recurrent issues, it makes him a bit more of a liability. Does it not? If you're Eddie Hearn or you're Frank Warren, Ben Shalom, etc., you're thinking, right, like, I'd like to work with him because he's a name. Not as big a name as he used to be, but he's still a name nevertheless. You look at someone like Frank Warren, you think, Daniel Dubois, if it's not in Saudi Arabia, we could easily do that as a headline act at the O2. Easily. But do I? Because if something else goes wrong, you know, so yeah, I 100% see where Ade is coming from with that. He's cleared, but I'd like to know a little bit more about it. I would. I'd like to know a little bit more about this. At the end of the day, like, you know, there is something when you hear about, it's the fact that this is his third time, and you hear that, you're just like, 3 flipping times this guy has been, you know, let's say he's failed test or had adverse analytical findings 3 times. That's just not good enough. Certainly for me, that's just not good enough. Let's see. Now, some people would say the counter argument would be, well, gee, hang on a minute. He's not fought since November of 2022. So, in theory, and I can kind of see where you're coming from, in theory, if he was to serve a ban, he's already done well over a year. So you could kind of argue that, like, okay, like, he served a ban. not an official one, but he has served something as his boxing career has stopped for over a year. So you could turn around and say, well, technically he has served some punishment. And yeah, fair enough. Now, in terms of Joshua Ngannou, lad, it's fight week. It's fight week. The card looks good. Oh, lads, this is going to be good. I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be good. We are going to do a watch along Friday night. I'm going to say about 8:30, 9 o'clock, thereabouts. I don't want the live to go because, as I said, like 2.5 hours to the sweet spot. Anything over that, it does get a lot trickier. It gets a lot trickier. But we'll obviously try and get the prediction video out tomorrow. Joshua versus Ngannou will be the main event. You've got fights like Justice Hynic versus Kevin Arena, very good fight over 10 rounds. Jack McGann versus Louis Green. That's actually a really good fight. Louis Green, he's been on a couple of Sky shows. Mark Chamberlain versus Gavin Gwynn. Looking forward to that. That's going to be a really interesting fight. Ray Vargas versus Nicky Ball. I'm siding with Nicky Ball to win the fight. I genuinely am siding with Nicky Ball to win that fight. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm siding with him to win that fight. And then obviously we have the co-main. And I think it's crazy that I'm saying this is a co-main event, but it is. The co-main is Zhilei Zhang versus Joseph Parker. That is a headline act on any platform. The Zone, Sky, TNT. That's a headline act, no problem. And it's co-maining. Unreal. I really am looking forward to that fight. Zhilei Zhang is massive. You forget he's 40 years old and he's probably in the peak of his career. Not physically, obviously. You would imagine that would have been in his 30s, probably early to mid 30s. But it's crazy to think that he's 40 years old and he's making crazy, and he's going to open. I'm sure he is the favorite going into this fight. In terms of Joshua versus Ngannou, like I said, and I've heard others say the same, but they are looking forward to this fight. And look, I'm not gonna lie, I've said it, as I said again, I'm looking forward to seeing these two guys go at it on fight night. It's a 10-rounder, so it's going to be interesting to see how both guys go at it in terms of a 10-rounder. Like, obviously Ngannou, he knows that. That's what he wants. With Joshua, again, someone said in the comments of the stream me and Addy did that he hasn't done a 10-rounder since Kevin Johnson nearly 9 years ago. And it is different going from... Listen, it is different going from a 12 to a 10 round. You might say it's only 2 rounds. It does make a difference. It does genuinely make a difference for these fighters. You know, even a 4 round to a 6 round is a big difference. So it's going to be interesting to see how Joshua approaches that. I'm really looking forward to the weigh-ins and seeing what both guys weigh in at. I really am. In terms of some of the comments that have been made, you know, Joshua was asked by Sky Sports if he's looking ahead to a potential fight with Fury or Usyk after Ngannou. And he said, I'm looking forward to getting back in the gym and building everything I've been doing. In an 11-month period, I fought 4 times. And just to interject, there you go right there. 11 months, he's fought 4 times. It's a real pet peeve of mine. And this is a real pet peeve of mine with fighters when they do this. When you have fighters who come back on the comeback trail, and especially fighters who have the luxury of being able to go and have rehabilitation fights, and they have maybe 1 or 2 fights and then straight back in the deep end, it's not enough. You know, I look at someone like a David Price, and I'm not saying if he'd have done this, it would have made his career any better, but he might have been able to do a little bit more. But I remember when he lost to Christian Hammer, and I remember thinking, do you know what he really needs? He needs about 8 or 9 easy wins. 8 or 9 just fights where he's blowing guys out of the water, but consistently, back to back to back. And he's in a situation where he's financially okay, he can do that. And that will pay dividends to him. I know for some people it'd be like, what is he doing? But that's what he needs. He needs activity, he needs confidence. Steel sharpens steel at the end of the day. That's probably the wrong way of saying it, but if you're constantly in camp, if you're constantly boxing, if you're constantly in the ring, you're sharp. You know, you're sharp and you're ready to go. And I think that would have helped him. With Joshua, 4 fights in 11 months, you're seeing him a lot more confident. He's starting to let the shots go. Against Oliver, didn't put a foot wrong. And I'm telling you now, it's purely down to, it's down to a variety of things. But mainly I would say it's down to the activity. That's what I think it's mainly down to. And it's frustrating when you see fighters and they don't do it. Staying active is the key. It's a big thing. He says, I feel like I'm starting to get strong again, get my timing, get my rhythm. I'm not too worried about Fury Usyk. Who knows if they'll even get in the ring. Don't do it. Just don't go there. Please. Don't do it. Don't go there. But yeah, fight week is this week. I'm looking forward to that. I was seeing this. Ryan Garcia. It's a bit of a worry. I ain't gonna lie. So at the press conference this week, he has obviously they had the press conference for him and Devin this week, and he seems not himself. It's just, for me, he just doesn't seem as himself. And I seen someone share this. It was an Instagram post he made, and it looked pretty damn bizarre. This was apparently on Ryan Garcia's Instagram channel. I think it was No Smoke Boxing. I think actually Ryan Garcia, oh my God, even he put it on his own. I didn't even notice. He put it on his own Twitter account. He says, we got him, boys. Ryan Garcia, RIP 666. The video is exactly 666 in time. We told you we were coming. Very strange. Is this? I'm hoping someone hacked him. As in like took his phone, and you know yourself, you know what you do. But that's a very weird. I remember once I got hold of one of my friend's phone because he went to the toilet, and I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? This was years ago, and I set up a Facebook group saying F Ireland, we're off to Oz. I added, like, I knew he was going to toilet, I knew he'd be a while, so I just added loads of people, all of his friends, into this, like, just was on Facebook, into this Facebook chat, and I put a thing saying, on July the 6th, I think it was something in July, I was like, July the 6th, I'll be leaving to Australia, you're all welcome to come to the schoolhouse for a drink, this, that, and the other. Sent it all off, then I left the chat out of his phone. So carried on as normal. We went on a night out that night, and loads of people were coming up asking him, when do you go to Australia? He's like, I'm not going to Australia. I was like, that was a good one. I thought that we were only young at the time. I was like, that was a good one. But yeah, what he's doing there, if someone has hacked his phone, which I'm kind of hoping it is, because this is worrying. If he's posting, I don't even know what he's doing here. This is like, listen, Ryan is a young fighter. He's made plenty of money. It would be, if he is not fully right, he shouldn't be in the ring. He just shouldn't be doing it. If something is wrong up there, he needs to take a step away from the cameras, the limelight, everything. He needs to take a step away from all that. Go and reflect. Have a look at himself. Have a look inside. And make sure everything's okay. He does not. If this is Ryan Garcia tweeting this and releasing this on Instagram, this to me is a fighter just from the outside looking in who doesn't look in a good place mentally. And I don't think him going into a world title fight against Devin Haney is the best place for him if this is the kind of stuff he's coming out with. Yeah, I don't know. And it's not just that. There's been a few tweets that have been going out and you're looking at them kind of like, huh? So yeah, I hope he's in a good place. He doesn't appear to be, but I hope he can get himself back into a better place. But his fight is next month. I like what I'm seeing. I'm not liking it at all. Terence Crawford has stated that he may move up to challenge the winner of Tim Tszyu versus Keith Thurman. Tim Tszyu, basically. Ade was telling me the rumour mill was that he was really struggling with welterweight, and it makes sense really when you think about it. I know he came from 135 to 147, but his first fight was at 147 6 years ago. It's bound to happen. Al Heyman have reported that PBC are now returned to the negotiating table and are back in talks to potentially stage Canelo versus Munguia on May the 4th in Las Vegas on Amazon Prime pay-per-view after all. It does seem to be the case. That Canelo will likely face Jaime Munguia next. I mean, it seems pretty much a done deal. But it just depends on what platform. Is it going to be DAZN? which is the platform that Munguia fights on, obviously with Golden Boy. Canelo is a kind of a free agent. He can come to do wherever he wants. Or is it going to be on PBC, Al Heyman, and Amazon Prime? At the end of the day, I really could care less which platform it's on. At the end of the day, it's a decent fight. It looks like the Benavidez fight isn't going to happen at all, which is a shame. I would like to see that fight happen. But Munguia Canelo stylistically, that's actually quite a good fight in of itself. Munguia is definitely going to come. He's definitely going to come to win. And in Mexico, I mean, good Lord, that fight is just phenomenally big in Mexico. If it's on pay-per-view, it's going to do insane numbers in pay-per-view, by today's standards anyway. I don't really care what platform it's on as long as it's a good fight. As long as we can get it in the UK, because I'm not sure. I don't have Amazon Prime. I don't know. Can you get Amazon Prime Sport in the UK? I know with DAZN it's pretty easy, but can you get it in the UK? Because I don't really watch a lot of TV. I don't do a lot. I watch very little TV. You know, the height of me is kind of sport and stuff like that. That's it. So I'm not really up to speed on whether you can get Amazon Prime in the UK or not, or what way it's going to be. Will they do it on DAZN in the UK and just in the US it's going to be? Because they have done stuff like that. Is it just the way it's going to be? I don't know. Let's wait and see. In terms of everything else, I think that's pretty much it. Wait and see. Now, this video will have gone way overboard. I was thinking to myself, I was like, don't let it go over a half hour. It's probably going to be, when I finish recording, have a look, it's going to be like 30 something minutes. Wait and you see. I'll leave it there. I hope you enjoyed it. I have a lot planned for this week. We obviously have to get the Zhang Parker prediction out. We're obviously going to get the Joshua Ngannou prediction out. I'm going to try and do a live, a Joshua Ngannou G-Man live. Let's have a chat. Let's talk about whatever. Before that, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday. Let's see how that goes. But for now, I'll leave it there. Lads, as always, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you all have a great week. I hope the phone rings, myself included, with some good news for someone this week. And just in terms of everything else, I hope everyone has a good, safe, happy week. We are in a fight week, so there's no reason not to be excited, no reason not to be happy. And I hope if someone's having a bad day, at least maybe this video has helped perk you up a little bit. Who knows? Maybe it has. I don't know. But anyway, I'll leave it there. I hope you enjoyed it. Peace.